Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new recent reads video. The first book on this list is called The Girl in the Walls. I think this book is one of my most anticipated 2025 new releases, if I'm not mistaken. And with that said, I had really high expectations, and I rated it 4 stars. This story is a middle-grade paranormal contemporary following a young autistic main character who finds a ghost in her grandmother's house, and she must determine whether or not the ghost is a friend or a foe. And frankly, I realized after reading this story is that I prefer explicit representation rather than implicit representation, and the only exception to that is historical fiction, when in the past the words for like autism or bisexuality or whatever haven't yet been invented. But I understand that sometimes in contemporary settings, for example, in They Were Roommates, it's for character development. But anyway, I digress. I really enjoyed this book because I loved the writing and the pacing and the mystery surrounding like her family's history and her relationship with her mother and her cousin and her grandmother and everything. Like, this book was so good. I really enjoyed it. So anyway, with that said, I do prefer good different, but overall I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Amelia, If Only. This story is a YA contemporary following a bisexual main character who is navigating her parasocial relationship with a famous YouTuber and also her growing attraction to her best friend. This story was good, but frankly I expected more and I didn't like it. First of all, the parasocial celebrity YouTuber that she really likes has a much bigger role within this story than I was really expecting. Second of all, the romance was mostly told rather than shown, which we all know is my biggest pet peeve. Third of all, the plot completely fell apart in the middle of the story. I don't know where, like, she lost it, but, like, I don't know. I also didn't really love the characters as people because they felt like wooden vessels instead of real people. I don't know. Imogene obviously is so much better, so I know that Becky can write so much better than whatever this messy thing was. It's like she wrote half of it and then forgot to write the rest. I don't know. Anyway, I rated it 3 stars because I really didn't like it. So there you have it. The next book on this list is called The Forest in the Sky. For those who don't know, this book is a middle grade fantasy, and it's the 3rd book in this trilogy. And I don't think that the author plans on writing anything more in this universe. But with that said, I love the world building. It's so fascinating and it's so interesting. I love the characters because they feel like real people, like real young people. And I understood all of their emotions and motivations and their dynamics within each other. The plot is excellent, and I love the pacing and the writing and everything. Like, I was so excited to return to this world with these characters because I truly love it so much. When I first read the first book in this series, I said the world building reminds me of Nevermore meets Pixie Hollow, which I definitely agree with still because it's so magical and it's so fascinating. This author is so talented, and I'm so excited to read whatever they write next. This book is excellent, and it was such a solid sequel. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Incorruptibles. This story is a middle-grade fantasy following a young queer main character who joins the human resistance against sorcerer tyranny, and I thought this book was so excellent and so well done. First of all, I loved the world building and the magic and everything about it. Second of all, I loved how the cast of characters is so casually diverse. Like, so many of her friends are POC, some of them are disabled, she herself is queer, and there's no question of like homophobia or racism or ableism or anything like that, which I really appreciated so much. I also loved the characters as people. Like, I love her friendships with all of them, and what I hope will be a sapphic romance in the sequels, assuming that they're all sequels, because I will gladly continue this series. And I also love the plot and the mystery and everything. At times, I sometimes felt like there were too many characters. So, like, a few plot twists didn't have quite the emotional impact that they could have had, because I kind of forgot like who that character was and their importance to the rest of the story. But anyway, aside from that, I thought this book was so well done. I just really enjoyed every single second of it and every single element. So with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Beautiful Maddening. This story is a YA contemporary fantasy that follows a young main character whose family's curse, which is connected to their tulips, prevents her from taking a risk and falling in love. I don't really know if that makes any sense, but this book was so good. I think the writing is so poetic and so lyrical. I love the world building so much. I love the characters. Even the romance was so cute and so well paced. Even though there are all some elements from the romance that frankly I don't really enjoy, and they remind me a little bit of Clueless, if that makes any sense. Anyway, without spoilers, and if I were to ignore that element, this book was really good, and I just really enjoyed it because I loved the characters and the romance and the world building and the plot and everything. Like, I just really enjoyed this book so much because it felt so sweet and wholesome, and everything made sense for the most part. So with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called I'll Pretend You're Mine. This story is a YA contemporary following a pansexual teen pop star who recently fired her parents as her managers, and now she's entering in a PR stunt where she's fake dating a teen actor. I liked this book, but I also rated it 3 stars, and here's why. First of all, I don't like it in books where there are multiple time jumps, because it felt like so many things were told to us rather than shown. For example, the romance felt so underdeveloped, and typically I really enjoy fake dating, so I was quite disappointed when I didn't enjoy this book as much. Second of all, even though I appreciated the conversation surrounding being a person of color in the acting industry and being queer in the music industry, and like the racism and the homophobia that comes with that, especially like if or when a star comes out, you know what I mean? I felt like so many of those things that came from that, like the emotional fallout or whatever, like were told rather than shown, so they were not as impactful as they could have been. I don't really know if that makes any sense. But basically, this book felt very underdeveloped overall, so with that said, I rated it 3 stars. The last book on this list, and certainly not the least, is called Under the Neon Lights. This story is a YA contemporary following a young black main character as she is navigating her favorite roller rink being shut down, her first love, and family dynamics. This book was so good, and I really enjoyed it so much. First of all, the free-verse format was so lyrical and so poetic and just so awesome because I fell in love with the characters immediately. I loved like her relationship with her best friend, her relationship with her love interest, as well as with her parents, and the roller rink and everything. I love the skating elements. This book is so fantastic and it's so well done. I've said this multiple times that I love coming of age stories because I love character driven stories, because the characters in this story felt like real honest people, and I enjoyed learning about them and learning about their growth from the beginning to the end. Everything about this book was so good and so well done. This book is so underrated and it deserves so much more hype. So with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly recommend it. So in conclusion, I've read more books in June than there are days in June, which has felt so satisfying, especially since I don't think I did that in May. So anyway, in conclusion, June so far has been a very fruitful reading month in terms of quality, quantity, and representation. So in conclusion, if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the roller coaster emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!